I'm gonna go find a balls that I can start unwrapping.
Jesus Christ. Well,
Tis the
welcome to
season.
episode 99 of the Cinnamon. Wasn't it, Doug? Just jumping the gun already. Not even
On the
60 seconds
road.
on the road to 100, man. And the road to 100 is looking very near, as that is our next episode and our final
What do you
episode.
mean the road to 100 is looking for? We're on the road. It better be
Oh,
fucking
yeah, I guess
near. We
that.
better stay. We need to see the road to stay on the road.
We need to
Come
see
on,
the road
man.
to
You're
stay on
mixing
the
your
road.
metaphors.
We can't see the forest for the trees, is what I'm saying.
Mm.
We're here, man. We are our last regular episode, man. Before we do our usual top 10 for the year, we are joined by a guest, a very special guest, a special little boy who had special little requests, man. Mr. Joel Winstead of Winstead's Reviews. How are you, sir?
I'm great. I'm special.
Yes, this is a known a fellow North Carolina Film Critic Association member, a fellow Seth Capella as well.
Mhm.
That would be the two organizations that the three of us are all in. It's good to have you on the show. I think this is your second or third time on this bad boy.
Yeah, I keep trying to come on here, but y'all kept saying no.
Yes.
Well, you kept insisting that you would eat during the shows, and we were like, we want to keep this to a
Well,
minimum.
it's a prerequisite.
That's his diva thing. Like I must be able to eat while I do my podcast.
I mean, if I can't have my bowl of red M&Ms, why do you?
You gotta have a better writer.
You know,
have the inclusion right.
I used to be part of the people that would review those writers in college for when I was on the entertainment board, and I'd hear all those stories. And I've worked in radio where we also had those writers, and it never occurred to me the reason why. I forget what I was watching where someone referenced the big, it's only this amount of M&Ms or this color or whatever, but it was because people had like allergies and shit or had other concerns, and it was like if they weren't reading the writer to the absolute detail, how could we trust that our stage was set up properly? How could we trust these other details? So it was their way of being like, if they can get the little things in our writer right, then they're going to get the big things in the writer right too. So I thought that was
I feel like that makes sense. I also feel like that's probably not the norm, and most of those people are just dicks.
Yeah, 100%.
100%. Winstead Reviews, since the last time we had you on this show, you have started a show of your own. Would you want to take a little bit to talk about that there, good sir?
Ooh.
Yeah. I started a podcast called And the Winner Was. It's basically me and another guest, and I'm going through every Best Picture winner in order. I started in 1927 with Wings. In each episode, I talk about the next movie in chronological order. And it's been great. It's been a lot of fun. Had a lot of cool guests, and Daryl's been on it. Mr. Davidson refuses to be on it.
Oh, not true. Not true.
I believe.
I said I'm gonna have some free time in 2024, so I'll be able to come on the show then. Things are just a little busy right now.
No, I understand.
Right on. And what was your last year episode that you released?
1956. No. 1965. The Sound of Music.
Okay. You have reached the year my parents were born.
There it is. And also, we talk a lot about Daddy Von Trapp.
Did you do that with good old Duck?
Our good friend Dalen Rowell. Yes.
Excellent. That Chris Plummer just looking all kinds of tasty in that.
Looking tasty.
Sheer curiosity, I've wondered about this, but unfortunately, when you've come into town, I'm usually not there. What was it that inspired you to start this particular show?
Well, so I was born and raised in a very strict religious household and was not allowed to watch movies, wasn't allowed to go to the movie theater. And so I have so many blind spots. And I'm a film critic and, a self-proclaimed film obsessive, film buff, film bro in training.
Film bros, we stick together, buddy.
And so it was something that I've always wanted to do, is watch all the Best Picture winners. And I was like, I'm never going to do it unless I make it like a thing. and then that's just kind of how it was born.
That literally makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of stuff that I do that it's sort of like if I don't make a commitment to a specific thing, if I don't somehow make myself accountable, it's never going to happen. I mean, psychologically, that's just how human beings function. If there's no external source putting pressure on, then you have to find an internal one. So that's smart. That's smart. How often do you publish?
Once a week.
Once a week?
Yep, except for not once a week because there's sometimes where I forget.
As you're going through this, are you keeping any kind of letterbox list or rankings of your best picture one?
Not everything has to be ranked, Daryl.
I do have them,
man. I love it.
It's private right now.
Yeah, and then no one's allowed to know who the Oscar winners have been. No one's allowed to.
Right, I keep that a secret. You got to listen to the episodes. But once I'm done with it, then I'll have my ranking out there.
So once you get to
controversial
2024, 2025, whenever you're all
basically up, whenever I've whatever quote unquote caught up,
then you'll release the whole list out.
Yeah.
Would you tease what's near the bottom of the list?
Oh man, yeah. Them all dead last is this movie called Cavalcade. Complete shit.
Okay, right on. I don't even think I've heard of this movie before.
Not good.
Sometimes the Oscars get it wrong.
They've got it wrong a lot.
And speaking of awards, man, we here as film critics,
awards where people are gonna get it wrong.
Speaking of people getting awards wrong,
at the time of this recording, North Carolina Film Critics Association just released their nominees for the 12th annual awards for achievements in film. Douglas, what is there anything here that stands out to you in this list of nominees? How much of this list reflects what you put in?
One thing that stood out to me that is a frustration is that I was trying to get people to watch Blue Giant, was trying to get people to watch the first Slam Dunk, and either people didn't get the chance to watch it or not. But I am stoked as hell that at least on our animation list, we've got stuff like Nimona and Mutant Mayhem. I was so stoked to see that. I was literally fist pumping as we're processing the nominations to see stuff like Sisu end up on our stunt list. When I've been in doing film criticism as a film critic of the NCFCA since 2016 and paying attention to awards instead of just reviewing things or just watching things casually. You start to go, okay, here's your front runners. Here's the one that's like, okay, it's a race between these 5 films. That is boring as hell. And so it's exciting for me reading through as we're processing this and seeing some variation, seeing Past Lives show up, seeing All of Us Strangers show up, seeing Godzilla -1 show up. And big props to you, Daryl. I have to absolutely mention this. May the Lord Watch, the Little Brother Story, which is a not only contender in Best Documentary Film, but also for the Ken Henke Memorial Award, which is an award centered on films, actors, producers, what have you, that are connected to North Carolina. I don't think anyone in our organization knew about that until you brought it to our attention.
LB business.
Yeah. So thank you so much for that. So there's some really exciting stuff on here. There's some stuff that I am super proud of in terms of, as an organization, you could really see what people were excited about. Now, I understand that not everybody is excited about these nominations, Joel, and that's totally fine. I totally get that. And I want to hear your thoughts on it, because what I want to make clear, and I said this actually on another show with Vice President Noel Manning, is that no film got snubbed. I've got the raw data. There just wasn't enough votes.
Right.
So all 300 movies that came out this year got at least one vote for something.
I mean, from the looks of it, yeah. I mean,
I was in that Slack. There's some cats that watch some crazy movies. Like, this could be in conversation for best screenplay, and I was like, y'all are smoking something.
Oh, you're talking about the Slack NCFCA Slack.
Yeah.
Gotcha. But that was awesome, though, just seeing the conversations going back and forth and making it.
Was it though?
whatever else. So, Joel, what were your thoughts on these things? Apparently, you brought some opinions. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who've seen Supernatural, he just pulled out a Crawley style roll that just went to the ground as he's about to Festivus style list his grievances. Please continue.
Well, every year there's always like 2 or 3 movies that like I'm in love with that are amazing that I try to get everyone to watch.
First cow, buddy.
First cow erasure is real.
It's delicious. I wouldn't say it's rewatchable.
I did have a steak for lunch.
And it just seems like no one else is on the train with me. And so, but I mean, it was cool to see like Godzilla -1 up there as best narrative film. But you know, it's a big year. You're gonna have your Barbies, you're gonna have your Oppenheimers, you're gonna have your Killers of the Flower Moon, Zone of Interest, Anatomy of a Fall. These are huge movies that every critics group is gonna vote for. So I voted for some of them in some categories that were just like I couldn't not vote for it. Mm-hmm. But I used my vote to throw up people and films that aren't going to be doing it. And so like the film The Iron Claw, which is going to be hitting theaters right around the time that we're recording this.
Yeah, it's in select theaters now.
Is my number 2 film of the year.
Right on.
It's really, really good. It's insanely well acted. Zac Efron from High School Musical is like putting on a clinic, and like he transformed his body. He entered like this zone, and it's an incredible film. It's got a lot of good supporting performances. It's got a great original song. It's got a great cinematography, stunts. It did get some love. I think it got nominated for stunts, I believe, maybe.
No.
But it got nominated for something.
Let me see. Yeah, it got best stunt coordination.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, it was
the only category I nominated in.
But I literally every category. I was like, why can I put Iron Claw?
I can tell you, it did have support. It just didn't have enough.
My number 6 favorite film of the year, and it's you know, and like my favorite films of the year, it's like if they're in the top 8 or 9, it's like 5 stars. One of the best is Saltburn. I loved Saltburn. That movie is crazy and it's wild and it's bonkers and it had some great stuff in it, and it's just not getting any traction.
No traction.
Daryl and I and remind me if I'm wrong here, I think we talked about this in a recent episode, is one of the big issues with this time of year is that a lot of films either get released, and in terms of critics, they either don't set up screenings or get us materials soon enough for consideration, or it gets released, so far out. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. The hoops to jump through to try and get a screener for that. The movie came out months ago, and Lionsgate did nothing for it. Shit, they've done nothing for John Wick Chapter 4, and that's getting nothing but love all over. So to your point, just so, Joel, in good faith, A24, I could not make the local screening. They were like, we will give you access to a link. It'll be available for about 5 minutes. You have to talk to a guy on a corner in a poncho, give him the code word, he'll give you a screen. I went to pull it up in the app. There was nothing in it. The bar at the bottom had literally an X in it. There was no time, no file, no nothing. The morning of the SEFCA vote,
in the mail.
So that showed up. And after the SEFCA vote and after the NCFCA nomination vote.
Yeah.
So I have
2 Iron Claws.
2 of them.
Yep, so do I.
And it's like A24 is a solid studio, but in terms of accessibility, they are one of the worst. Because at least Neon, and I'm not even talking about the wonderful packaging that they put together for the box set. They send you everything at once, and they send it to you typically early. This year, something happened, at least with the NCFCA, where everybody was getting stuff super late and inconsistently. But like, I don't know what was going on with A24. That was a movie that I wanted to see. I am going to watch it before voting next week for the NCFCA. So maybe for the one category it's in, it'll win. Who knows?
Erasure. And I just want to shout out Dominic Sessa should have been for supporting. He's a great newcomer, great, first role, but best supporting actor. And Glenn Howerton in Blackberry was absolutely phenomenal. Should have had some more love there. But you're not gonna win them all. I remember 2 years ago the movie Cyrano, which maybe is in the top 3 movies of all time in my whole entire life.
I don't think I've heard you talk about this.
Got no love. I would marry the movie Cyrano if I could.
This
I
podcast
love
sponsored by Joel's
Cyrano
wife.
de Bergerac. I did not love that movie the way that you love that movie.
Oh
which
man,
which is
Doug's
not
more
a
of a
problem at all.
Roxanne guy.
And by the way, Joel, just to point this out, I want you to know, would you like to know the real reason why the Cinema's ending at 100 episodes? Daryl found out that Oppenheimer is not in my top 10. He looked at Leslie and went, "We're done. That's it. I can't handle this."
Good man. Good man.
It's not.
Yeah,
And
I mean, honestly, at this point, I'm hardly surprised.
That's because there were other movies I liked better. That doesn't mean that it's not on my favorites list.
Yeah, there's some cartoons that no one's ever heard of that are up in the top 5 there.
What was that?
Yeah, Blippi's Great Revenge was right there at number 3. Anyways, enough of this BS. Speaking of best supporting actor, man, I think that might be there's a stiff category going on right there. Mark Ruffalo aside, I'm very interested to see how all of this plays out for good old North Carolina film critics. More like 80% of my ballot's already filled out. I just got to knock out like 3 blind spots, which I'll probably do over the next 2 or 3 days, and then I'll be turning that bad boy in. The whole thing is thrilling, is what I like to say about this. It's a thrilling time. We're getting all the trades are putting out their tops and their bests of all of the critics groups are putting out their lists in whatever capacity they do. SEFCA's the other association that we're all part of already out there. I think the Critics' Choices nominations are out there. This whole time this is a thrilling time to be a movie fan, right? And that seems like a great time to discuss our topic for today: thrillers. We're here.
It took me a while to pick up what you were laying down, but I picked it up. I'm holding on to it now.
I'm glad you're picking up what I'm putting down. Thrillers, man. It really seems like I can't nail down a definitive definition of what thriller is. Like, Joel, when you hear thriller, like, what does that mean to you? Is it suspense? Is it mystery? Or is it just heart racing?
It's a little bit of both. Horror, it's a little bit of everything, but I think it's more along the lines of the audience not knowing exactly what's coming. So there's an element of suspense, there's an element of whatever the unknown is, but you're on the edge of your seat.
Mm-hmm. I would agree completely with that. It's I did look it up because I was curious to see if there was sort of a definitive definition. And thriller is one of those things that sort of overlaps with others. It does involve crime, it does involve horror. Typically, detective fiction is what it's referenced, but the idea of suspense, of anxiety, of uncertainty, anticipation, surprise, all of these things come into thrillers. Excuse me. Which makes for a really exciting time, because you could have a science fiction thriller, you could have a horror thriller, you could have a dramatic thriller, you can have all of these different things. Action thriller.
Yeah.
And just as long as they evoke all these other things. Well put, Joel.
Yeah, well put.
Thank you.
I feel like the 90s was like the king of mid-budget thrillers. Like,
you mean erotic thrillers.
Also erotic thrillers. Yeah, a little bit of Michael Douglas up in there.
It wasn't just a little bit.
You got some of the stuff like Along Came a Spider, and Kiss the Girls, and The Bone Collector, and all those kind of things. They're all kind of inhabiting that space right up in there. Like, for some reason, when I think of thrillers, those types of movies are where my mind goes to. But for this final regular episode of Cinnamon, I was going to throw it to Joel to kick us off, but he's got a mouthful of fucking green beans right now.
No, I don't.
Do you want to kick us off with what your... Oh, Douglas, did you one last time want to run down a goofy ass list of movies that can contend for thriller?
Silence of the Lambs, 7.
Yep. My list of examples begins in 1902 with The Burlesque Suicide, number 2. Les Vampires, 1915. M in 1931. Rebecca, 1940. A Woman Kills in 1968. Broken Mirrors in 1984. And then we're going to jump to some more recent examples. Mandy with 2018. Have to mention that one. Blow the Man Down, 2019. A really solid film. I think it's still on Prime if you haven't checked that one out. Shirley from 2020, The Execution from 2021, which I don't think has gotten a U.S. distribution yet, and that's devastating. The Power of the Dog 2021. Can't
And
read my
others.
handwriting. What was that?
And others.
Let's see. Hold on. The Four Devils 2022, and What You Wish For, and The Last Stop in Yuma County 2023.
Oh yeah, What You Wish For, man. That one surprised the shit out of me. Have you checked this out or heard of it there, Winstead?
What are you saying?
What You Wish For? Have you heard
What
of
You
this?
Wish For? No.
Yeah. Pretty good flick, man. Go ahead and check that out if you can track it down. It came out
Is
earlier.
it animated?
No, it's a live action. I don't even want to like give you the premise because it's like one of those I think you should go completely blind into. But
It's a Nick Stahl joint.
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit, Nick Stahl's still alive. I really thought that guy was dead. But okay, let's get into it, sir. What is your first of 3 in thrillers?
So when you asked me to come on like 3 hours ago, and you said that you needed me
Well,
to
all
some
30 of our
thrillers.
other guests canceled on us. So.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm always usually about 31 on the call sheet, so I had 2 like right away, and then my third I was between like 18 other movies.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about one, but I'm going to give a special shout out to the movie The Fugitive. It's a great thriller. It's like the ultimate dad movie, but you don't have to be a dad to enjoy it. But that's a phenomenal film that I love and hold dear. But I want to get a little love to the horror side of thriller. I'm going to talk about a movie. I would venture that you guys might not like this movie, but maybe you do. I hope you do. It's 2014's It Follows.
Oh, I don't venture into that part of film. I'm a big scaredy cat with a bad heart, man. I don't do scary all that often. But from everything I've heard, people fucking love It Follows. Talk about it.
They better
It's
not
amazing.
fucking love It Follows. That's how they end up in that situation in the first place.
It's
still
true.
see it myself, particularly with the sequel coming out.
Yes, very excited about the sequel. So David Robert Mitchell blasts onto the scene. It's his debut feature. Wrote it, directed it. It's essentially about a traveling STD ghost. And once you have it, you have to get rid of it. And the only way you can get rid of it is by having sex with somebody else. And it's a pretty heavy metaphor, but basically the premise is there is this entity that is after you. It goes slow, it walks, you can see it coming from miles away, but it's always coming after you and will always be there. And so the film starts and you really have no idea what's going on, and it's just a girl running out in the middle of the street. She's screaming, you're just as lost as she is. You have no idea what's going on, and then the story goes from there. But it's super, super dark. It's got scary thrills, it's got thrilling thrills, and then one of the things I love most about indie movie is just get bonkers, get fucking crazy, and I'm gonna love it. And so there's a lot of things that come out of left field. There's some imagery in there that will stick with you for a long time. There's some amazing cinematography, and then this entity can take the form of any person. And so it might be this old lady, it might be this guy. And so you're constantly looking at every square inch of the frame to see if they're in a crowd, who's staring at the protagonists, who's walking towards them, who's, you are just as paranoid as them. And so it is the definition to me of a thriller.
I like this setup. Interesting.
It's a good one. It's solid.
Apparently an intense film. There's one scene or one shot involving a doorway. I'm not going to get into it.
That's true.
That has come across my path, and so I've been tiptoeing and covering horror film festivals and other things. My number one film for the year is a horror film that nobody's fucking seen. I mean, nobody in our organization anyway.
There is a scene towards the end of the film in a pool, at a pool, and it's got some really, really creative cinematography and some gags, like setting up things that have paid off and will continue to pay off throughout the scene. Special effects that are practical, and the entity may or may not be like invisible, and so it's wild and it's a lot of fun. But if you don't like scary movies, you're missing out on a lot of good films.
Maybe it's like a Saturday 9 o'clock in the morning watch.
There you go. Yeah,
That's how I got through the ring. Okay. All right, then cool. Doug, do you want to go first with your
Sure.
Oh, by the way,
Sure.
Mine Joel, first off, The Fugitive is the #2 dad movie of all time. It is known that Hunt for Red October is the number one
sure
of all time.
Sure.
Dad movie bracket coming soon.
And the only way to vote in it, you have to stand there, arms crossed.
Press a button, cross your arms again.
Be able to.
Yes, and you have to wear socks.
You'll move
sandals.
on to something in a minute, I'm sure. But after this scene, no, mine is a movie that I've talked about, I'm pretty sure, on this show before. It is probably my favorite release from this director, and it's a director that has made a lot of award-winning and compelling films, one of which I am still pissed off the Criterion Collection hasn't released a version of. But this is from 2006, Spike Lee's Inside Man. I fucking love this movie.
Good film.
I have watched it so many times, and it is still exciting in a way that you sort of feel like you're watching it go down for the first time, but you know you've seen it before, so you're scanning for details and you're trying to pick things up and figure stuff out. We may have talked about this a couple years back on the heist episode when we were talking about Rafiki, which is another
Rafifi.
Rafifi. Excuse me.
I just
Rafiki's the monkey in Lion King.
Bop. It's in the past. Ignore it. So, but yes, Rafifi is also amazing. Thank you to Daryl and this podcast for introducing it to me. But the Inside
Speaking of which,
Man,
you gave me Inside Man as a cinnamon challenge.
Yeah. If you're not familiar with it, there's a bank robbery and it happens, and there's a hostage situation, and the police are brought in, led by Denzel Washington. He's trying to figure out who's robbing the bank and who's a hostage and this and that, whatever. And the whole movie is told in present, but in the future, where they're interviewing people that say that they were hostages, but the people that are interviewing them, the police officers, they think maybe that they were the hostage takers, and who is really who and what is it that they're going in for. But this is Clive Owen, Jodie Foster, Christopher Plummer, Willem Dafoe, Chiwetel Ejiofor, and a slew of other fuckers.
I can't let that one slide, though.
What?
I can't let that one slide. Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Did I really?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Thank you for the correction.
Boy, that was a Thanksgiving turkey carve right there.
Oh no, I apologize.
Yeah,
apologize profusely.
I'll be hearing from him later on about it. But keep on going there, sir.
One of my favorite Spike Lee movies. I'm done now. I'm gonna go crawl into my shirt.
Inside Man is a maybe 3 for me. For Spike Lee joints, it's gonna be like Do the Right Thing in the Five Bloods and then Inside Man. Thank you to you for giving me this jump as a challenge. I'm not a huge Clive Owen guy. I like Clive Owen. I just don't like the movies that he selects and put it that way. Fire Your Agent. He must have the same agent as Chloe Grace Moretz. But what we get here is kind of, Spike kind of has 2 roads. He's got the Black empowerment movies, and then every once in a while he'll step out of that wheelhouse and he'll just give you some dope shit. And this is one of those dope shits that he gave us. I wish we had more Spike and Denzel. There's not a whole lot of it, unfortunately. We got one Spike in
Next Generation.
Yeah, he's got Spike and John David. But yeah, it's a dope one. I think it's one well worth checking out.
I agree. It's my number 3 Spike as well, but I have Black Klansman to Five Bloods Inside Man.
Okay, all right, I can respect that. I think Black Klansman would probably be my number 4. Dope joint, and it says something that his more recent movies are towards the top of that ranking.
Yeah.
It seems like he's it's possible to get better with age as you continue to do whatever it is you're doing out there. Right on, right on. My first joint, I'm going to go ahead and get my cliche film bro basic bitch out the way. There's one director that comes to my mind when you say thriller.
Fincher.
And it's fucking Fincher.
Sorry, you said film bro. Sorry, apologies.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to step on you. Go ahead.
It's quite all right. He might be my second favorite director. I like his output. It's varied enough that it's like, all right, I kind of feel like this today, and I kind of feel like this the next day, but I'm not. I mean, it's gonna be two completely different movies. And it comes down to like really one of two or three. It's Seven is Zodiac, or maybe it seems like people are divisive on his remake of Dragon Tattoo, which I fucking love. But I'm gonna go with Seven, man, the most basic of the basics for this.
Panic Room's a great thriller too.
You know what, man? I had never seen Panic Room. I tried to rent it before Killer came out to catch up on some Fincher blind spots, and the rental on Vudu was not the audio and video weren't syncing up. What? And I was just like, man, fuck this, and just closed the tab out and took it.
I just love the convenience of digital. Isn't it amazing?
Yeah. So I might just go ahead and blind buy that bad boy and add it to the collection. But yeah, man, Seven, it's for me, it's one of the ultimate thrillers, man. It's a great murder mystery, great procedural. These two dudes, the young hotshot, the old tired guy. There's always a good trope and stuff you can mine out of that. I think Pitt's towards the top of his game, but not at the top of his game yet. Morgan Freeman is just coasting on legendary mode at this point, just knocking it out the park. I heard somebody on a podcast say that they rewatched it through different eyes and they don't see it as a thriller as much. They see it as a Fincher statement of this is kind of the end or the ending of the nuclear family. Just the sadness of Gwyneth Paltrow throughout that. The fact that you never really get to, very rarely get to see her and Pitt just have a normal life of any kind. But then again, with that job, I assume few things do come normal. But it gives you something different every time you watch it. One of the great villains out there. And it's just a dope fucking movie. Just dour and bleak and depressing. And I love it.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yep, Joel, by all means, if you have anything to add.
No, I have nothing to add. I echo.
One of my favorite things about that movie, and I have a weird long story that I won't get into, but I have a strong memory associated with that film. But one of my favorite things about it is that Kevin Spacey, shitbag that he is, doesn't get a credit at all until the end of the movie.
Smart marketing.
It's one of my favorite things about it because it demonstrates that from top to bottom, there's an idea of if you don't know who the bad guy is going in, then you're not going to know until they're revealed. And there's all these films that they do the over the shoulder and the shadow so that you don't see who they are until they're revealed kind of thing. Could be your protagonist, could be the antagonist, whatever. But if you know anything about the movie, you already know who they are, so there's no surprise there. But the way that Fincher executes Seven is that the idea of who John Doe is, if you have any sense of the cast from seeing their names at the front, you won't know until he appears. And I love that. I absolutely love that. Among other things about this movie from its execution and everything else. I understand it's getting a 4K release. It's a limited edition. No, UK one, where I don't know what the price is, but in addition to all the usual like art stuff and probably a steelbook and everything else, there's a giant box.
Mm-hmm.
That
I wonder what's in it.
What's that? I can't remember if they said
it's the Paltrow vagina candle that comes in.
Yes, goop.
Goop. It's a giant box of goop.
Oh, that's all goopy. But that's a UK thing that's coming out in 2024. So I presume that there's going to be a US one. Daryl, who's got Seven? Do you
I mean,
know?
I do. On the bookshelf over there.
No, yeah, but who distributed that? Is that WB? Is that?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Oh, okay.
I feel like that's kind of the strategy that Nolan took in Interstellar, because you get like a good 90 minutes in, and I was like, I could have sworn I heard that Matt Damon was cast somewhere in this movie, but I didn't remember his name in the credits. And I'm like, we're pretty deep into this shit, and we haven't seen him. And I remember my first time watching it, like when they unzip him from his business and he sits up everywhere, it's like, oh shit, it's Matt Damon. More people need to do this.
I agree.
Yeah.
There's
It
something
also
about
demonstrates that they put their ego aside and put the movie first, and everyone's on the same page to put the art first. You know what I mean? And that's cool. Even though Kevin Spacey's a piece of shit,
absolute piece of shit.
Or whatever gets me more points on the back end.
That's right. You are moving into screenwriting, so you got to be thinking about.
I got to be thinking about these things. All right, back over to you there, Mr. Winstead. What is your second of three?
Second of three is a movie that I came to a little bit later in life because it came out in 1977. But this movie is an absolute edge of your seat thrill ride. It got not a lot of attention when it first came out because it released on the same day as another 1977 little movie called Star Wars.
Star Wars.
But this is William Friedkin's movie Sorcerer.
Bro, I just watched that for the first time like 2 months ago.
So stinking good. It's actually so this is a remake of a French film called Wages of Fear. And I had seen Wages of Fear first. In that movie, it's the same premise. And then William Friedkin remade it as Sorcerer. And it's about these guys taking a truck full of nitroglycerin through a crazy jungle, and has nothing to do with sorcerers. So I don't know why it's called Sorcerer.
It's in the Wikipedia somewhere because I looked it up afterwards of why he called it Sorcerer, but I can't remember.
But it's Roy Scheider leading a cast of, familiar-ish faces. And I mean, it's like every pothole, every bend, every time they're going across a little mountain and the back tire starts sliding off. And I mean, it gets you really invested in the characters. It gets you really invested in the story. And at any point, it's just a ticking time bomb the entire movie. And it's a lot of fun.
He cast Lives Ryan Elliott. Apropos of nothing, just randomly sent me this movie. And he was like, you need to watch Sorcerer. And I was like, okay. And I probably had it for like a year and a half. And then Freaking passed. And I was like, all right, I probably need to just sit down and watch this joint. And I am so glad I did, because that truck going over the rickety bridge is one of the tensest scenes I have ever seen in movies.
And considering how anonymous this movie was, that is very iconic. And it's on the poster and all that.
Have you seen Sorcerer, Douglas?
I have not. I know about it, the scene on the bridge that's on the poster. And when he passed away, everybody was talking about Sorcerer, of all of his work. In fact, I think the Independent Picture House here in Charlotte, they did a screening of it in his honor. So it is on the list. I don't have the ability to start a podcast, but
if you have a microphone and internet, you have the ability to start a podcast.
I have tools, but there are other things that go along with it. The point being is I don't have the ability to devote that kind of time to create a podcast to fill in these blanks. I love what Joel's doing, and it's focused and it's clear. I can't do that. I would have way too many, and Sorcerer is one of them. Sorcerer is a major blind spot. There's a lot of Friedkin. I don't think I'm ready for The Exorcist, for example.
Ooh, one of my favorites.
Ooh, man, it's number one for horror for me.
So
all right, right on. Good call, sir. Good call.
Yeah.
Douglas, you're number two there, sir.
Mine, I guess, if we were to give it a overarching category, I don't know if at this point this director would be within Film Bro land. I feel like despite the few films that this director has made and in recent history, that we hear this person attached to a project. And I think those of us that like their work immediately go, all right, I'm already in. I don't care what the premise is. I'm already in.
I know who it is.
And uh, so when thinking about thrillers and going through stuff, I can't mention, you could go for it, man. Go for it.
No. I just
All right.
wanted to.
Good
No.
call, man. Because
you're right.
that's. I was like, man, who are you talking about? Good, yeah, good call.
Yeah, it's Jordan Peele. It's Jordan Peele. I was looking through my list and I've talked about Mandy enough. I haven't talked about Blow the Man Down. I was looking through some recent things and I've talked about this director and talked about that director. And I know I've talked about Jordan Peele on the show before with Us and with Nope. But with Get Out, this is a first film in terms of direction and writing, and making this leap is such an incredible work. And it may not be my favorite of the three, but it is the one that I most likely go back to watch, not just because of length, but there's so many interesting things going on. And it's not quite as unsettling as Us and Nope.
Yeah.
Though Nope has some calmer moments, some longer periods of it. And what a great movie Nope is. But out of the three, this being his debut, that's the one I wanted to highlight. That's the one that I was like, if I'm going to talk about Jordan Peele with thrillers, what an incredible artist. And he's so capable of finding the humor and while also exploring devastation and just the little things that he does in all of his films. One of my favorite jokes from Nope is when Kaluuya's character, I forget the brother's name. He's in the car and he looks out and he just goes,
Nope.
Nope. It's just a great line delivery, and he gives an incredible performance here in Get Out, and that might be the first time I've ever seen Kaluuya in something. And ever since, if he's doing a project, I want to see it. I just found out he's co-directing a project coming out on Netflix next month. I would like to see that. So as far as Get Out's concerned, for those of you that don't know, it's about a young man named Chris. He played by Kaluuya in a relationship with a girl named Rose, played by Allison Williams.
Don't trust that chick.
It never works out for people, does it, in movies? But he gets invited to go with her to visit her parents, and they are wonderful parents and incredibly loving and accepting, played by Bradley Whitford and Catherine Keener. And all the expected white ally shtick is in there. And then it turns out that the whole reason why they want them there is because it's a trap. And if you're not familiar with Get Out at this point, I definitely don't want to ruin it for you, but it is fucking unsettling, but in a wonderful way that Peele will explore and analyze the way in which, in this case, allyship is nothing more than a way to prey on other people for your own gain, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an incredible fucking film.
Agreed. You got anything on this, Winstead?
If I could have voted for Obama a third time.
That's also a go-to Douglas Davidson line.
That is it's because it's so fucking good and it just encapsulates.
It's perfect and delivered perfectly.
Oh God, Whitford is so good in this. So good in this.
He is. Anyway. I think it's rude to have a debut this strong. Like it's almost like the strongness of Get Out is almost a disservice to Nope.
Yeah,
not Nope, Us, because it's like
he debuted this film. He also debuted a whole new genre that took over Hollywood.
Yeah. I feel like a couple of people have been chasing Get Out since it first came out. Good call, sir.
Thank you.
Good call. My second one, I'm gonna Douglas Davis this up a little bit here. A movie I don't think we've talked about before, or maybe in passing. It came out in 2009, an off the beaten path movie called The Collector, directed by Marcus Dunstan, starring nobody you've ever heard of. Have either one of you two seen this movie?
I don't think so. I'm intrigued.
The long and the short of it is, it's a dude who um, is planning on robbing a house. He's got the inside joint as like one of the movers of these rich people into their new house, and they're leaving for a weekend or something like that. And he's like, when they're gone this weekend, I'm going to rob them blind, because he's desperate for cash for his ex-wife. Um, he finishes his moving duties for the day, comes back at night, sneaks into the house, and that's when he finds out that the family didn't make it out. And they are trapped inside the house by an even worse person who has booby trapped this house. So a guy who was there to rob these people blind are like, do I make off with the goods, or do I be a decent person and help this family out? And then if he makes off with the goods, you don't have a movie, so you know what he's going to do. And just the insane booby traps that are throughout this house as he's moving to not be noticed by the collector, this person who walks around in this giant gimp looking mask, just torturing the shit out of this family for no real apparent reason other than the fact that he can. It's like a quick little 88-minute breezy. It never stops, and it's just like how horrible can these people get fucked up in this movie. It's a great watch.
And you don't want to watch It Follows?
This was a blind watch for me. Someone was like, I'm going to sit you down, we're going to watch this movie. And I was like, okay. So it's not like I researched this and came into it. Someone actually came into my dorm room in Korea, is like, we're going to watch this fucking movie.
Yeah. I recognized it from the poster. I looked it up on Letterboxd quickly. But if you like that, you should relax with the rental at some point. I think you'd find that very, very chill by comparison. Jesus Christ. Joel, did you see the rental? The one that
the Dave Franco movie?
Yeah.
Was that a neon joint?
No,
I didn't watch
IFC.
I didn't watch it.
IFC. Exact same runtime as The Collector, by the way.
That's also part of it. That movie has me like, I'm so glad, if I remember right, when it came out, that it was after Daryl and I had traveled to LA and stayed at an Airbnb. Because after that, I don't ever want to stay in an Airbnb ever again.
Right. The Barbarian did that for me.
Oof.
Yeah.
When I say I still need to see that, I'm nervous.
Oh boy.
But it's on the list.
It's
home invasion movies, those ones get me. Those ones get me.
Yeah, this is like a home invasion with a home invasion attached to it. The Collector.
Right, it's Home Invasion Inception. You know, there's a sequel to this joint.
Yes, because he gets away at the end, and if I remember correctly, the Collector at the very beginning of the sequel gets his ass, and then it's off to the races after that. And in the first movie, you see like a dude that's just randomly tied up in the trunk. And then I think he eventually gets killed. And then at the beginning of the second movie, he becomes the guy that is tied up in the trunk. Yeah, wild shit, The Collector, man. I don't think it's streaming anywhere. You might have to go ahead and rent it. But if you do, it is more than worth the rent, in my opinion. Like I said, at 88 minutes, it breezes right the hell by.
And don't get it through Vudu. Right.
Do not get it through Vudu. Not sponsored. Oh, apparently it's on Pluto TV. So if you're okay with commercial breaks, it's fucking free for you. So go ahead and check out The Collector on Pluto. All right, then back over to you, Winstead, for your final joint. We gotta pick this up. We only got 7 minutes.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have like a hard out, but it's like semi-soft.
That's what she said.
My third film, I saved my best for last. This is a movie that I watched and it blew me away. I'm a huge fan of Alfred Hitchcock, and there was a number of Hitchcock films that I had thought about bringing up here, Rope being one of them. But I love this movie. It's a movie that if I'm ever out in public and I'm talking to somebody or like talking to like acquaintance or a mutual friend that doesn't really know how into film that I am, and then he go, "Oh, you're a film critic? Oh, well, it's a good movie to watch." I always say this movie. It's a 1967 thriller, and that's this. It's no other genre but thriller. This is a thriller. It's called Wait Until Dark, and this movie stars Audrey Hepburn,
yes,
and Alan Arkin.
Yes.
And Audrey Hepburn plays a blind woman who accidentally comes into possession of a doll that has drugs in it. And Alan Arkin plays this drugged up, crazy villain who is trying to get these drugs. And it really puts you into the point of view of a blind person. And it's crazy. She lives in this apartment. It all takes place in like a room. It could be a stage play. It all takes place in her like downstairs apartment. So like there's a door, and then you go in the door and you go down the steps, and there's like a big wide open living room, and then like the rest of the apartment. But it all takes place in this wide open like living room kitchen area. And there's like these windows above the kitchen sink that is where the road is at, where you see people walking by. And eventually, if you're paying attention, you start seeing the same person walk by. And then they knock on the door and they introduce themselves. And he thinks he knows where this drugs are at. So anyways, he's trying to figure out where the drugs are, why she's hiding them, why she even has them. So anyways, there is a scene where he gets into the apartment and she doesn't know he's in there. And so you are watching this blind woman do all the things that a person does when they're home alone. She's like, doing stuff in the kitchen and she's moving around. And there's a guy in there with not the best intentions. And it's fantastic. And it gets to the point where at the very end of the movie, you are literally in the POV of a blind person. And the only chance you get to see anything is when she lights a match. And then you see him, and then the match goes out, and it's dark, and it's really, really thrilling. It's very, very Hitchcockian in its suspense and thrills, but it's an absolute blast. And I can't recommend it highly enough. It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
I put it on my watch list. I see it's got a little 5-star action from one Joel Winstead.
5 out of 5.
Okay, right on. Douglas, have you ever heard of this movie? I never heard of this movie.
I have not heard of this movie. It doesn't remind me exactly because the plot is very, very different. But if you haven't seen a movie called The Blind Man Who Did Not Want to See Titanic, Joel, you should absolutely check it out. I talked about it last year. It was one of my favorite films last year. And when I tell you it's literally shot from the perspective of our lead, we literally only see what he sees and he can't see. So everything's fuzzy and it has to be within a certain frame. I'll send you the trailer. I'll shoot it to you later. So if you can track it down, I absolutely recommend it.
It's on Freevee
big movie
and
buff.
Tubi.
What was that?
It's on Freevee and Tubi.
Oh.
Perfect. I don't recommend watching it with ads, but
interruptions.
That's the only way you got it. Go for it.
Yeah. All right, Douglas, what is your final pick there, sir?
Mine is a film that was on my favorites list from last year, and I don't think enough people knew about it. It is a movie that is an incredible character piece. It's got incredible direction. It is not a debut, but it is the second film from director Andrew Siemens, and it stars Rebecca Hall and Tim Roth in the movie Resurrection.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, this was released by IFC. It is under 2 minutes long. It is about a woman who is incredibly type A, who comes to start to see a former lover. And it is someone who was very controlling of her, and she had to work to break free of their influence. And this is played by Tim Roth, who is incredibly charming and incredibly sweet, and is the kind of gaslighter that is the thing of nightmares. And this film goes from being something heavily grounded in reality to making you question everything that you think you know about the movie that you're watching. And it does it slowly, and it does it piece by piece in such a way that when you get to the end of the movie, you really do have to ask yourself some questions about what you've seen. It should surprise no one that has seen Rebecca Hall act that she is an absolute powerhouse. She's capable of doing everything from, what was it, Godzilla versus Kong, to stuff like this with Resurrection. She's done some other great dramatic work too. Tim Roth playing opposite her, the man is just having a great fucking time. And I love watching Tim Roth in just about anything anyway. But this is an intense, intense character piece that will have you from the moment Tim Roth appears on the edge of your seat. Cannot recommend it enough.
Nice. Yeah, I agree with that. I fucking love that movie. It was one of the ones I plunged into during FYC time when IFC sent out their deluge of screening, and I love the fuck out of that movie, man. That's a great joint, and it's a one woman show all the way throughout. Winstead, you get a chance to check this out?
Have not seen it.
Do yourself a favor, sir. If you get a chance, go ahead and check that bad boy out. That's a good one. My final one, a bit different than my usual. But it's one that's never been talked about on this show, and I feel like it bears bringing up. A thriller and suspenseful in the fact that it, as far as I know, had never been done before. And I love and have to appreciate the novelty of them actually managing to do it. And I just talked about it on Twitter the other week. It's Netflix's Bandersnatch. These motherfuckers made a choose your own adventure movie. If it was at the end as it was at the beginning, because the beginning just needs to get you set into this world, so you make him choose like what kind of cereals you're gonna have for breakfast. And I was like, man, if this is what the fucking choices are going to be, this shit's going to be horrible. But the further you get into it and the deeper you get into the mysteries and all the nonsense, and do you want this person to live? Do you want this person to die? The meta-ness of it when Netflix itself as a brand is involved in the and when some of the choices that goes throughout. It's not only is it should be lauded for what it managed to do technology-wise, I think it should be lauded for creating a very suspenseful story about a guy who's trying to program this video game for this company, and all of the pitfalls and whatnot that come with it. And it is just fascinating to go through. And I've said it a million times that I think 10 seconds is not enough for the options that you're given to be made. And this dropped in 2018, and I think it would have made a hell of a good watch party during COVID if you had more time to make a decision where people could argue about it and debate of, oh, we go this way, if we do that, we do this. It could have been one of the most entertaining watches of COVID, but unfortunately you only get 10 seconds, I think, to make your decision.
Do you think that's because they were taking the runtime into consideration, that they were thinking about it as a movie as opposed to that kind of interactive?
Maybe, I don't know. I think the runtime would still depend on what choices you make, because it's not like everything has the exact every frame that's shot has the exact same runtime. If you go this way instead of this way, this might be 4 minutes longer than this over here.
Well, let me put it within a context of, you put me on to May the Lord Watch, and so I watched it on YouTube because it's available to stream on YouTube. But it's got commercials every so whatever that run for maybe 2 or 3 minutes. So if the documentary is, let's say, an hour 40, and then you've got all these commercial breaks multiple times throughout, then it suddenly goes over 2 hours. So if you've got 10 seconds that you then turn into 20 or 30 seconds for every single question, you've gone from maybe 2 hours, depending on how long it is with your choices, to something significantly longer. So that's why I'm asking. I don't know. Would you think it would be something like that?
I mean, that might be the impetus of the decision. I think from an enjoy perspective, people might have been able to enjoy it more if they had more time to sit and really think about, do I fuck this guy's life up, or do I keep him on the straight and narrow? But yeah, it could go any number of ways. Did you do the Bandersnatch, Winstead?
I didn't. I am very intrigued. I saw the very first episode of the very first season of Black Mirror, and I was like, this is fucked up, but I'm gonna probably watch all of this. And so by the time Bandersnatch came around, I was so far behind. And like, I'm a completionist kind of person, so it's like, even though you can watch them all whenever you want and they don't all connect, I still want to start from the beginning and watch all of them. So to answer your question, no.
Do yourself a favor, man. Sit down and watch Bandersnatch. Considering it is its own movie outside of the Black Mirror TV episodes, I think it's well worth the time. And that's it, man. These are all of our list, man. Our thrillers. Thank you there, Mr. Winstead's reviews, for taking a little bit of time out of your day and all the green beans you shoveled in your mouth as we did this episode. I appreciate you coming on and talking some thrillers with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Joel, where can people find the podcast In the Winter Was? Where can they find your other work?
Social media. I mean, you can just search for And the Winter Was on X and on Blue Sky. And
sorry, what's X?
Is that Twitter?
Is that like Twitter?
Idea what that is.
I feel like
X
that's
is
like Twitter.
formerly known as Twitter.
Oh, that. Yeah.
And Facebook. You can find me, Joel Winstead, there. You can find me on Letterboxd. I am around.
Right on. Good luck with your votings, and as you revel in your saltiness with the North Carolina, best of the years. We'll see how this whole thing plays out. Douglas, you got anything before we land this here bad boy for this episode on the road to 100?
First of all, I do want to thank Joel again for joining us for this. I'm sorry that it took so long for you to be able to come back and join us. I am sorry that it's on the precipice of the
ultimate.
But thank you so much for being here. And to everybody else that's been listening as we get ready to head into our 100th episode. Thank you for going on this journey with us. And if nothing else, I'm sure I'll reiterate it later. Hopefully we've talked about films that you didn't know, or we've talked about films that you haven't thought of in a while, and give them a second chance. Because, you go and see a movie one time and maybe it speaks to you one way or doesn't speak to you at all, but you go and watch it again or revisit it, and maybe it connects. You just never know. Art is funny and people change, perspectives change. So, as I always say, watch more movies.
Yep, Doug is 100% correct. People change, perspectives change. Go back, reevaluate things, and you might realize that Oppenheimer should be in your top 10. That is it for this episode of the Cinema. We'll be back shortly with our top 10 for the year 2023. Have you published yours yet? Have you made the people aware, Winstead, of what your top 10 for the year is?
I have a running list throughout the year, so if you were to go to my profile and see it, you would see what I have so far, but I don't put it out until the very end of the year because there's still a couple movies I need to watch.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, I got a number I'm going to try to knock through before we do our recordings, just to make sure everything is all nice and settled. But be on the lookout for his when he drops his. Be on the lookout for our episode when we post ours, and then that'll be it for this bad boy. Until then, we will see you all later. Take it easy and have a good one.
Be safe out there. Watch more movies.